Borders, and I have the privilege of being the ambassador from No Labels today. No Labels is a grassroots organization, a national one of Democrats, Republicans, and independents who are all working together to help move the country forward. We all recognize that there is severe and dramatic gridlock in Washington, which is not productive for any American. But what we believe at No Labels is that a good idea can come from anywhere, and that every voice should in fact be valued, that we should work from a very respectful perspective, understanding that everybody has an opinion about everything. But we want the best ideas for this country so that all of us can leave it better than we found it. Some of us have children, some of us do not, but we recognize that each and every family needs to have the same things in America. Good jobs, great education, good transportation, and we've got to work together to make that happen. So today, it is certainly my privilege to be here with all of you to offer the seal of approval from No Labels to Councilmember Gary DeLong. Now, we are all familiar with his track record from business from 1988, turning around his company. He must have valued every voice because he increased revenues, he decreased expenses, and he actually focused on the customer. Imagine that, he focused on the customer, and the company is now at a record-breaking level. Then there's public service. This gentleman has been working with folks across the aisle since he has been elected. We at No Labels believe that that is the appropriate path that you should take, not only to be productive, but to have your community be successful. So whether he is working on the budget, we know he's the budget chairman here, and that has given him significant experience. Whether he's working on the budget or whether he's working on infrastructure or education or on healthcare, he is not doing it alone. He is working with others. They might not all have the same political stripe he does, but they have the same ultimate objective. We are looking to have that same type of leadership in Washington. Persons who can champion working together. The No Labels group is calling these folks problem solvers, and we are looking to have a group of them that can act as a block. Those who are not standing on the left or the right, those who recognize that we should stop fighting and start fixing America. So it is certainly my privilege on behalf of No Labels and the over 500,000 members that we have nationwide to offer the seal of approval as a problem solver to Councilmember Gary DeLong, who will soon be Congressman Gary DeLong. Come on up, sir. So I offer this problem solver seal of approval so that he might display it on his website and in every meeting that he goes to that identifies him as one who is willing to work with everyone, who's willing to take the best ideas, vet them, and leverage them for his community, which will ultimately be helpful to the entire state of California and ultimately to this country as a whole. So thank you so much for accepting this seal. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those comments, Lisa. I'd like to know just how proud I am and honored to have received the seal of approval from No Labels. You know, I was familiar with No Labels when you first came out, and I looked at it and said, well, that's kind of an interesting idea. Let's look at that a little bit closer. And I've just been monitoring and following you and just seeing everything that's happening, and everything that group does, and the way you're growing are just ideas that I would like to be a part of. And when I was in Washington a few weeks ago, you got that calendar where you just scheduled from back to back, from meeting to meeting to meeting. And one regret that I had, and I emailed Nancy Jacobson after the meeting, one regret I had when I was on that trip, is I didn't schedule more time with No Labels, because it was just fascinating, all the things that you have going on. And I'm honored to be part of it. I'm also impressed with it. Is it 92 members that you have signed on now for no budget, no pay? You know, when you look at that, you think about it, just what a natural idea. I mean, I'm not sure why you don't have 435 members signed up. That's my concern. I mean, how difficult is that concept that if you show up for work and you don't do your job, you shouldn't be paid? Exactly. That's what it's about. You know, one of the highest priorities of a member of Congress is to pass a budget for the country. They don't pass a budget, they shouldn't get paid. And I will let you know that I support that very strongly today as a member of our country, but more important, I will support that very strongly when I'm a representative of the United States Congress. And I have one of these I would like to share. I had a number of emails after we sent out the press release one with you, which I think the fellow did a very good job describing it. He said, no labels to me means you can act appropriately even if your party isn't on the same page. Doing what is right above personalities or what your personal opinion may be is what putting people before politics truly means. Thank you for taking into consideration what it will take to build coalitions. I just think that gentleman summed it up perfectly. And I can tell you that certainly as my candidacy, that's what I felt all along. I didn't have to evolve. I didn't have to take an opinion poll and stick my finger in the air. It's who I am. I'm a registered Republican. I always have been. I agree with the Republican Party on many things, and then there are things that I disagree with the Republican Party on. And my commitment to the people is I will do what I think is best and what I think reflects the voters of the 47th District, and that's what you can hold me accountable for. In fact, another interesting story is the day after the primary, so on June 6th, I received a phone call, and my assistant said that Congressman Binney was on the line. I knew I'd met a lot of congressmen in the last 6 months, but I couldn't remember that person. And she said, well, it might be Bonnie. I'll take the call. So, this is Gary DeLong. Gary, John Boehner here. So I took the call. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for the call. You did a great job. We're very proud of you. We're going to be there for you. We'd be delighted to have you as a member of Congress. And I said, well, thank you very much for those kind words. I said, but do you have them? And he said, I do. I said, well, I just want to let you know that I might not be your typical Republican, and I'm sure that you and I will see eye to eye, on mostly financial things. We should balance the budget. We should cut the cost of government. There's many things we're going to see eye to eye on, but I suspect that there's probably going to be some things that we're not on the same page, and I just want to be very upfront with you about that so that when I get there, we don't have a misunderstanding, very, very early on. And I said, and he said, that's not a problem. Well, let me just share a couple of things just to make sure. And I shared a few positions that I knew were diametrically opposed to the Republican Party. And the only comment he had was, he said, Gary, he said, look, you're being elected to represent the 47th District of California. As long as you're doing a good job representing your district, he said, we would certainly never ask you to do anything other than that. So I look forward to you coming back, and I look forward to working with you. And I tell you, that's who I am. That's what I pledge to you. And I think having the no label seals endorsement really fits right into that. So thank you all very much. Thank you, Lisa. Picture before we do it. Any questions on the endorsement or for Lisa and her organization? Please.
So why?
Can you identify yourself?
Joseph Lappin from the Long Beach Post.
Yes.
So why do you still need the label of Republican?
I agree with the Republican Party in many things. My financial conservatism is very clearly Republican in our country. I think that we have a good plan to get the economy moving again. That's my private sector background and create good jobs for America. I think those are the goals of the Republican Party, and I'm very proud to support that direction. Any other questions? Please.
And I'm not going to put words in the council member's mouth, but this seal of approval is not restricted to a Democrat or a Republican or an independent. We are not asking people to abandon their philosophical beliefs. What we are asking them to do, as my Baptist grandfather used to say, is to use 2 ears that God gave you and 1 mouth, to listen twice as much as you talk, so that you can get the best ideas from every vantage point possible and find the optimal solution. So we are hopeful that this will be an inclusive group rather than an exclusive group, because that's part of the challenge. People are standing off in their corners, be they left or right. And I'll give you a sports analogy, which is one of the international languages. There is no team on earth playing any sport where the team stays in its huddle to move the game forward. Agreed? You are either in the center of the field, moving the ball one way or the other, whether it's football, baseball, basketball, you name it. You go to the huddle to make a plan, but to execute and move the ball forward, you come to the middle. You come to the point of action, right? So here's what I would tell you. We are not asking people to completely abandon who they are. We're asking people to listen. We're asking people to work together. We're asking people to be problem solvers. There may be ideas from the left or the right that inform and lead us to the best solution. So that hopefully gives you some insight as to what we're trying to do with this group. We built our infrastructure in 2011 so that this 500,000 people, we started with 1,000, by the way. You newspaper people always are interested in numbers. So we started with 1,000 people. Today we have over 500,000 folks in every state across the country. So we built the infrastructure. Today now, that's an outside force. This becomes an inside force. And in Washington, those who can be the champions for solving problems as opposed to being partisans and standing in corners. Does that help?
Yeah.
Thank you. And Lucy, also, if I can personalize that a little bit, when I met with Nancy in the conference room back in Washington, one of the things she had on the board was these charts, and she had names kind of written out and the markers on there who we supported. And one of the questions that I received on the campaign trail, Art Levine, when we were interviewed on Straight Talk and other folks, is, okay, Gary, but you're this moderate Republican, yeah, you're fiscally conservative, but you're going to get marginalized. You're not going to be in the middle, in the huddle, in the senior leadership making things happen. So kind of what difference does it make if there's one of you? And you know, and I've always felt, I do believe one person can make a difference. That was my experience on the city council here. But as I sat in that conference room, I was kind of mentally, counting the names, and then she happened to mention during our talk that there were 92 members and growing. What came to me is, well, those are the folks that I'm going to work with. And it didn't occur to me to say, well, is there 57 Republicans and how many right? Was there an R, was a D? But there are 92 members of Congress, Republicans and Democrats, that I get to work with, that I get to go and say, you know what, there's something you and I agree on. Forget we're party line, there's something we agree in no budget, no pay. We agree in leaving the label at the door. We agree that we want to work together to solve problems. Those are the folks that I'm going to naturally gravitate to, regardless of whether they're Republicans or Democrats, and hopefully we'll be able to move beyond, I'm going to say, simple things like no budget, no pay, and get into very complex things of how do you address Medicare, and how do you address Social Security, and how do you balance the federal budget. Things are going to take very difficult decision making, and it's going to be very controversial. You're going to need a group of people from both sides that can work together so that the other group, the other party, doesn't immediately start sawing, the limb off that you've generally started crawling down. Any additional questions? Thank you all very much for being here, and Lisa.